Hello everybody and welcome back to another video, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Jules and on this channel I like to play around with colours, get people inspired about what do you do with their art materials and learn some art skills along the way. Today I want to do something a little bit different. So I want to do a sketch session today, and the requirements for today's video are you need one pair of ears to listen with and one pair of eyes to watch with, though I'm more than happy to just accompany you in the background while you sketch your own thing or do your own projects. And I personally will need this brand new pad of watercolor paper, one pencil, and my reference sketches that I made before. So I know that it's past Halloween. Oh yeah, and the cup of tea. Not mandatory, but highly recommended. What was I saying? So yeah, it's past Halloween, but I have still got pumpkins on the brain. I feel like November is still very much pumpkin season, and so I've been thinking, wouldn't it be fun to do some sketching, draw some pumpkins, and then have fun playing around with watercolor to get the effects that you see on all of the different types of pumpkins that you find if you look it up on, say, Pinterest or so. So I will get started with the sketching part in a little bit, but first of all, I wanted to show you, as a bit of preparation for this, I did some studies is a strong word, of some sort of pumpkin shapes. So I looked up some reference images and I drew these really quickly, just like basic like circles, ovals, and then like the more complicated shapes that pumpkins can make, so that we can choose some fun pumpkins to draw today. Ignore the fish. I know they're cute, but this is the focus right now. So I'm going to basically transfer some of these sketches onto this watercolor paper. I think I'm going to do 3 is my plan, because 3 is a good number. And then we will enjoy painting them in afterwards. So I will unwrap this brand new pad of 100% cotton watercolor paper, and then I'll bring you back and we can get right into it. So here we are. I am going to sketch directly onto this watercolor paper. As you can probably just about see on the camera, it has a bit of a texture. It's cold pressed, but it's not super textured. I love this paper. I use it all the time because it's also quite reasonably priced in my opinion, and it is a block, so it's glued on all 4 sides, and you have to stick a palette knife in here or whatever to remove the sheet. So hopefully it should behave nicely with our watercolors. I also did a couple of preliminary sketches in this tiny little baby sketchbook. So this is the kind of thing that I'm going to be going for, so I might be referencing these a little bit as well during the sketching process. So I'll put those over here somewhere so I can see them. Alright, so let's just get straight into it, shall we? So this is just my mechanical pencil, no brand, but one of my favourite things to sketch with, and I'm just going to get straight into it. And if you're thinking to yourself, wow, Jules, you sound like a little congested. Are you sick? Yes. Yes, I am a little sick. And if you also think to yourself, wow, Jules, weren't you literally just sick like a couple weeks ago? Yeah, I was, and I'm kind of mad about it, to be honest. But the show must go on, you know. So let's just have a chill zone today and just draw some pumpkins, and I will try and stabilize the video afterwards to account for any camera wobble, because this new setup I have, well, it's much better for the positioning of the camera and everything else, but it is attached to the same table, so it does tend to wobble a little bit. So I think we're going to go for this sort of pear-shaped pumpkin over here, which, I mean, it does look like a pumpkin right now, but I promise it won't by the end. And then I'm going to do a smaller one in the middle, maybe just like a more of a standard sort of oval shape pumpkin. I do plan to clean up these sketch lines before I start painting, but you know, you got to start somewhere. So this little guy in the middle, and then maybe he can have like a little bit of a top on it, you know, like when pumpkins have like the stalk comes out of a bit of the pumpkin which isn't like perfectly round, you know. So I think it's always fun. And I also like to include the stalks. So this is going to be like one of those lumpy butternut squash shaped gourds, and then we can have one of these round boys I know, technical terms, right? I could have bothered to look up the names for the specific types of pumpkins that I'm interested in here, but I have not, and also they don't exist in reality because I'm not drawing from a reference. So, and then I think I want to do like one of the ones which is like really super tiered shape over here. So I'm just going to draw from this and like have like another layer down here that's really different, and we can make it a little asymmetrical so it fits on the page. I quite like that. Maybe as a result I should make this one like in an ideal scenario I would have put them all in the middle of the page. We can also always trim the page later, you know, like there's nothing to say we can't. And I think I'm going to put like a little line behind them as like a sort of horizon line, if you like, except I'm going to stand up so I can try and do it straight, or a little bit straighter. I mean, nothing's perfectly, doesn't have to be perfect, you know. This isn't going in the Tate Modern. It's just a fun little pumpkin painting for a weekend morning. Okay, so if we bring this one out a little bit further over here, then it will make it feel a little bit more balanced, I think. I don't know what we're going to do in the background. Maybe we'll just have like 3 little pumpkins and it'll be like a nice family, a family of pumpkins. I haven't even taken any decongestant substances, so I don't know why I'm in a little bit of a loopy mental state today. Essential tea break. So I'll just add like another, just like a little bit of a stalk up here so we can see where it was growing. I love pumpkins. I love seeing them in the fields as well, you know, like they just, such a weird, like they just sprawl out, there's vines all over the ground, and then somewhere in the middle of it there's just like an orange gourd. That's just insane to me. All right, I'm going to grab an eraser to clean up some of this later, but for now I think I am going to go for maybe a couple of these little lumpy bits, like the lumpy texture you get on some squash and pumpkins. But I think first of all I'm going to draw some lines. And these are like contour lines for the pumpkin, so I can see where my light and shadow is going to be, and also helps me figure out the shape of the top of the pumpkin. So you can see here how this is representing, this pumpkin's a bit uneven as well, so it doesn't have to be perfect, which is great because it won't be. And you know, in the end, I'm not claiming that this is going to be 100% representational. You know, I'm just drawing some pumpkins because it's autumn. You know, I've been really enjoying pumpkin lately. You'll have to let me know in the comments what your favorite pumpkin containing dishes are, because I love a pumpkin soup, of course, it's a classic, but also I tend to just eat a lot of squash and stuff just roasted, or you know, in a stew or something is also quite good. So many ways to eat a pumpkin. And I'm just going to add some more lines to this one as well. So it's when you have like this tiered thing, you have to do sort of 2 lines, so it goes around the curved bit and then out and around the rest of the pumpkin. This one looks a little bit like a beach ball, or I don't know, the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch. That was a good movie. Sometimes I realize I'm getting old when I reference Monty Python and somebody gets it. I feel very happy in the current circles I socialize in anyway. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here, just a little bit more dramatic maybe, to make it really appear that it's like the amount that this part differs from this part is less than the difference between the size of this part and this part. So I want to make sure my lines reflect that. I mean, clearly this isn't a drawing tutorial, you know, there are plenty of professional artists out there on YouTube who are very, very good at instructing people on drawing, and all I can say is good luck, have fun, because it doesn't really matter. It's nice, like making these videos and drawing is like the one part of my week which doesn't have like direct impact on anything else. Like, you know, I'm not paid for this. I don't need to worry about the outcome. You know, if these pumpkins turn out to be just okay, then that's absolutely fine by me. Another tea break. But yeah, I decided I'd like to start sharing more drawing process videos and you know, the like on this channel, like, because I think that's been something that I've been maybe a little bit afraid to do because I feel like they don't get as many views, and I don't know, I feel like I'm not as proficient in sort of the fine art side of things as I am just in the art materials, and colour theory are two things which I know very well, as per the name of the channel, I suppose. But yeah, so I've been a little bit intimidated by, you know, there are so many artists out there who do these perfect illustration projects and drawings, and I feel like I can't really compare to those. But I think maybe it's also nice to just have like the realistic little sketch sessions, you know? So I'm just putting these little marks in to indicate where I want my bumpy bits on my pumpkin to be. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to do for outlines on these pumpkins, like, right now. Will they even have lines in the end? Will I do it using maybe I could do it using like a light brown coloured pencil or something? Probably be quite good. I could probably also be doing these lines with watercolour pencil right now if I didn't want them to exist at all at the end, but I think I probably will, you know? So I'm just gonna put some of these lines here, and I'll go over it all with a kneaded eraser before I start painting, because I know I don't want so much of this graphite to smudge into my watercolour, which is ironic if you saw my most recent video, which is entirely on how watercolour and graphite mix together and how they can be best friends. So if you are interested in that, then do recommend you check that out. So I'm just like, I feel like that you get fewer, so the shapes have to be longer as you go to one side, and then they can be rounder in the middle, because, you know, it's more like face on. And then as you get to the bottom, they have to be more squashed horizontally, and also probably a little bit smaller, I think, as well, just because, you know, the thing wouldn't be sitting that well on the surface otherwise. I did also consider that I'm probably going to want to do a shadow under these. I'm a little bit intimidated by that. So I don't know if I'll do that or if I'll just keep them as three little pumpkins just doing their best. And I think for the most part, I'm going to try and use a very limited palette. Haven't quite decided what colours yet, but that's my next task. But as you can see, this is coming together quite nicely. I don't think we need too much more of a guide. And maybe I can go and choose some colours, and then we can come back and start the painting already. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? You'll have to let me know what you think, if you've seen any of these types of pumpkin around, if you've done any pumpkin related art projects, then I think it would be quite nice. What if this one also just had like a little bumpiness? Nothing too crazy. But I mean, nobody's perfect, right? This is what my skin looks like if I stop doing my skincare. It's not that bad. Oh, this time of year is really bad for your skin as well. The humidity's so low outside and it's so cold. Everything is just so dry. And I have a lot of houseplants, and caring for them becomes an entirely different ball game with the season change as well, where you put the heating on and you have to water them more often. And my citrus plants have been dropping leaves, and it's very stressful, you know, being a plant parent. This is why I could never have an animal pet. I think it would just be too much. Okay, this looks pretty good. I'm going to grab an eraser and choose my colours, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back. As you can see, these lines are a lot lighter. I just went over them with my kneaded eraser just to get rid of most of it. I think it should be fine though. I mean, we're basically making it up as we go along anyway. I have a couple of reference images, full transparency, a couple of reference images here on my iPad, just so we can see basically how the shading goes. And I picked some colours, so I think we're going to use a limited palette for this kind of project. I love using a limited palette, it makes my life so much less stressful. And so I've got the Buff Titanium, the Roman Schmoll Gamboge, which is PY95. It's a new pigment to me, new paint to me. and Cobalt Green Deep, which I thought would be really good for getting that sort of granulating texture on some of the pumpkins. And then I'm going to use the transparent orange from my main palette, which is a Schminker paint, which is a transparent Pyrrole Orange PO71. And then for brushes, I have a Jackson's Raven Zero Mop. I don't use this very often, but I figured that since this is a bit of a bigger project, why not? Got my trusty Da Vinci Spin Synthetics #1, use it in every video. And then this #6 Da Vinci Cosmotop Spin, which I also quite like for smaller details. So I think I'm going to get started. Since this is cotton watercolor paper, I think I'm going to do a wet on wet kind of wash to begin with, get some base colors down, and then we can work on top of that. Okay, so let's just get stuck in, shall we? It's always a little bit scary when you have to put the first colors down on a project like this, but you know, as long as we keep the layers nice and light, we have nothing to worry about, because you can always build it up on top, and there's always the ugly stage in the middle of the painting where you think, oh no, this is it, it's all over, and you just have to push through it, right? Like, we've all been there. I don't do as much painting as I'd like, so you'll have to excuse me if I do seem a little inexperienced. It's because I am, but maybe that's also kind of nice to see, you know. You go to the pros for tips and you can come here for the realism. Because I mean, I'm not, like, I wouldn't describe myself as a beginner, but I'm also definitely not an expert. So I'm just going to wet the area of this pumpkin. I think we'll do them one by one. I hope my camera's in focus. Probably not, but you know. I can also just chat to you about how things have been going lately. This, we seem to be getting new subscribers. By the way, if you like this style of video, please do like it and leave a comment and subscribe and tell a friend, because it's like the way I decide what to do more videos of is by looking at who's watching, right? So engage with the content that you want to see more of, and it will appear as if by magic. But yeah, I seem to be getting some like new subscribers on the channel, which is always nice. Welcome if you're new. And I wanted to branch out into doing a bit more of these painting videos, you know, actually using my art supplies. I'm interested if you have any ideas of what videos to do going forwards, because I've sort of hit a bit of a, not a wall, but I'm sort of in a phase now where I think I should probably decide if I want to mix things up, do something a little bit different. So if you have any thoughts and or anything you'd like to see, now is your time to influence the future of content on this channel. This is turning out pretty nice already. I think this gamboge is just the best color for this. I'm going to switch brushes because I find it a little scary, the lack of control that you have with the other brush. But I'm learning as well because, for example, this brush holds a lot less water, and you don't really, I mean, you know that like off the basis that it's like a much smaller brush, but you don't realize the impact that that has on how you paint and what the process is like until you actually try and do a painting with it, right? So I'm hoping I can use things that I've learned along the way to sort of help me through with this process. So I think I'm going to leave that there. We can move on to the middle one, which I think I want to have a bit more of a green base. So I'm just going to mix up a little puddle of this Cobalt Green Deep, which is a color I don't use very often, but do enjoy. It feels very fall winter to me, this color. And I think I'm going to mix a little bit of this gamboge in again. Whoa, maybe not that much, huh? I don't know, that will be okay in a light wash. In a way, this is also a little color mixing experiment, right? Because I've not made these limited palettes before. But I can never relate to artists who I see who use every color under the sun. I find that very intimidating, and I much prefer to just have 3 or 4 paints which give me a range of options, and then just to work within my means in that sense. Just going to get a very dilute green wash on this brush and just let it go. I do like that this Romish paint, it does flow beautifully in water. It's not streaky or anything like that, but it doesn't you know, it doesn't rush around. You feel like you have some agency. You can already see this green granulating. Oh, that's making me quite excited, actually. It's also a good idea sometimes to do a bit of a brighter underpainting so that when you layer on top, you know, the colours underneath sort of glow through. Wow, that cobalt green is really, really stunning. And then I think on the final one, I'm going to get some more of this buff titanium. And I'm going to mix it with my transparent orange, which we haven't used yet. Just a little bit of the transparent orange, so you get sort of like peachy shade. And then just give this a go. I think it'll be fun to have one more yellow, one more green, one more orange, have the variety. But I think they're going to be really quite nice. I quite like these shapes. They're very pleasing organic shapes. I have a plan in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go to, well, I think I'm going to go to Berlin for work, which is very exciting because they have like one of the best art supply stores there. And so it's an opportunity for me to go and pick up some fun new stuff. And they also sell Roman Schmoll paints like in person there. It's where I got my first ever set of Roman Schmoll colours, which I chose myself. And so when my boss was like, would you like to go to Berlin? The answer is yes. Even though it's a bit of a grueling journey, to be honest, from here. So I think I'm also going to do the same thing here. Wow. Whoa. Look at that. That is crazy. It looks out of focus, but it's not, I promise. It's just the fact that the watercolor is very blurry because it's wet. This is just so amazing to watch the orange like run wherever you leave it. This is really, really fun. It's very therapeutic, isn't it? Just watching all the colours run together. I'm also going to make sure that there's like a little bit of a shadow like under here. So we can make sure that that bit is darker than the rest at the end. I don't know if I'll end up including a brown as well in this palette. I haven't tried mixing the orange with the green, which I think will probably make quite a nice brown, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And I think in the same vein, I'm going to take a little bit of this cobalt green and drop it a little bit more into this one here, just around the edges, and making sure that we can define the grooves. That's one thing that seems to be quite ubiquitous across all gourds that I've seen, is this that tends to be darker in the grooves than on the surface. Can't tell you why. I'm not a botanist. Look at this beautiful colour mixture though. Absolutely stunning. Oops. This is the problem with standing up and painting. Maybe you get a little bit too loose sometimes. Just gonna mop that up. Take my damp paper towel and just give it a little help. Thankfully this isn't a super staining colour. I don't think you won't even know that happened at the end. So I'm going to leave these to dry and then we will come back and do the next layer together. Okay, so we are back and it is dry. I'm not known for my patience, and we'll see if that comes back to bite me, but it should be okay. So I guess the next step is to think about what colours we want to use on each of these. So I think it would be nice to include like a little bit of the colour on most of the pumpkins. So the three main colours that we're using, the yellow, the orange and the green. So I think on this yellow gourd shape over here, I want to put some green like around the base, around where I've drawn the outlines of these little bubbly bits, and then maybe a little bit sort of up to halfway up the pumpkin, just to give it a bit of like contrast and shape it out a little bit. I'm just double checking this is okay to put my hand on. I think so. Oh well. So just like touching it in a little bit. So now this is mostly wet, so we should be, sorry, dry. So we should be able to layer over it with some ease. And I think I might end up doing the finishing touches for these in pencil, which is fine. You know, there's no obligation to only use one medium for a piece, especially if it means that you're more comfortable and you enjoy it more. Do whatever you like, you know? Like, an art practice is for everyone, first of all, and then within that it's unique to everyone, so you can do with it what you will. I'm just going to blend out some of these edges a little bit so we don't end up with too many hard lines, because there aren't that many hard lines in nature, though I have seen some really fantastic pumpkins with some very striking patterns. Like, just there was one which was basically half green and half yellow, and the yellow basically just like started here in like a straight line. People have bred some really, really interesting pumpkins. As you can tell, the research for this was quite fun to me. Sometimes I find the research process more exciting than the actual painting. I think that's just because there's less pressure. So now we're sort of shading in the bottom of this pumpkin, and I'm just making sure that I'm leaving a little bit of space around those areas which I had outlined to be like these little growths on the surface of the pumpkin, which sounds gross, but I think they're just adding a fun textural element. Man, I should really have taken some kind of cold medicine, I think, today. I have to go to a Halloween party tonight. I'm dressing as a sad clown, so that will be fun. And yeah, I'm going, even though I probably should take it easy, given that I'm sick again, but I don't want to, because Halloween only happens once a year, and I enjoy spending time with people so much, so I'm looking forward to tonight. Have to let me know if you have any Halloween traditions. I know, like here, it's not necessarily such a big deal because, you know, the kids don't really do trick-or-treating here, and there's not quite so much hype, but obviously globalism has changed that a little bit. And also the 1st of November here is a public holiday, so either way it's like a great it's a great time to have a party, you know. Nobody has to go to work the next day, so everyone can enjoy it. But I think that's for different reasons. I had a very low-key Halloween this year, since it was on a Tuesday. I also had a Halloween party last weekend, actually, which was also very fun, but I didn't have a costume for that one, so this is my costume effort. I got it all for like $8 at a thrift store, so you can highly recommend that strategy for finding Halloween costumes. Bit late for this year, but in case you ever needed that. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave this one for now. I'd say that actually even just going from the left-hand side to the right-hand side of the pumpkin, I kind of got the hang of the technique a little bit better. And I really like how this is coming together. So I guess I'll move on to the middle pumpkin, which I think I'm going to want to include some more of the orange in now. So I'm going to take some of this green and I'm going to try mixing it with some of the orange. No idea how that's going to go. Probably some kind of brown, right? Oh yeah. It's a nice deep sort of murky green. And if you mix it with a little bit more of the orange, you get this sort of golden brown colour, which I quite like. So there you go. You can see a little bit of that on the palette. But I think I'm just going to include this slightly murkier green, just bringing a bit of the orange warmth into this one, and do a similar thing, but focusing also around here, you know, where you've got the difference between the top and the sides. So I'm just going to put like some lines indicating where these segments are, and to try and line them up so they make some sort of sense, which is easier said than done. And also trying to make things a little bit darker on the right hand side, just that seems to be how it's worked out. So we have some kind of canonical lighting. This is a very separating mixture on the palette, by the way. It looks very interesting. Just blending it out a little bit. I'm still learning how to deal with that the best, and like make sure that you don't end up with these super harsh lines. It's it's not trivial, put it that way, to me anyway. But the only way to learn is to just keep trying, right? So we'll just push through this sort of stage of the painting where it all seems to be not coming together, and you just need to push through, right? Like that's what everyone says, and sadly that is the reality. There is no magical cure for the ugly phase of your painting. But I do really enjoy just watching the colours mix and merge on the paper. This part of the paper where this pumpkin is was also a little bit wetter. I think I must have included a bit more water in the wash under here. So that's another thing I'm contending with a little bit. This is quite damp paper. But hopefully that should also work in my favour, in the sense that the colours should blend a little bit better and have a bit more of a flow to them without me having to intervene so much. I'm just going to drop a little bit more pigment into this damp patch below the sort of crown. My dad used to grow all sorts of fun pumpkins. I don't know if he's done the same this year, but I remember growing up with lots of pumpkins. We used to have a competition in our village growing up. This sounds awfully provincial, because it was, where everyone takes their biggest pumpkin to the school playing field, you know, and like everyone's like wheeling their massive pumpkins over there in their wheelbarrows. Oh man, it's a different way of life. I do miss it a little bit. Like it seems so nice to just have that kind of community feeling. And then with this one, I think I'm going to go for the yellow and the orange and sort of really intensify that kind of, this kind of golden shade that we have going on here. This orange is so strong. I really love it though. Wow. That's so much. I think I might add a little bit more of the yellow. That genuinely looks like a pumpkin orange. I've created, you know, I cut open a pumpkin the other day. It was this colour. That's good to know. There you go. There's your hack for that. And then I'm going to mix in a little bit of this buff titanium just to tone it down. Just because it's maybe a little scary bright for me right now. So now it looks more like a pumpkin pie, which I like. And this is quite a nice texture as well. So I'm just going to have a think about how to lay this out the best. Like, do I want to put this colour in the highlights, or do I want to put it over everything, or do I just want to put it in the areas where I want shade? I think I decided I would like to put it everywhere for the most part, just like as a glaze, to just increase the saturation and how yellow this pumpkin is turning out. And hopefully this won't reactivate too much of the... I'm just adding a lot of water to this so I can cover this as best as possible. In fact, I'll be smart and switch brushes. How about that? I'm really super guilty of just using one brush for a whole painting and thinking it'll be fine. It won't be fine, you know? There's a reason they invented different shapes and styles of brushes. That's because they have different proficiencies. And I should take the time to learn more about how much I like each one and what it's useful for. That already looks so nice there with the yellow overtone. And I think we need to have to go around the edges of these, the little bobbles, and like do some shading. But maybe I will do that with coloured pencil. I will, however, fill in the stalks of the pumpkins. So I'm going to take some of this green and some of the orange and mix one of those nice brown tones. Yeah. Really nice pumpkin stalk brown. It's another one for the watercolour line, huh? Pumpkin stalk brown. It would be so fun coming up with names for new paints. I'm just going to try and get like a less of this on my brush so I can have some more control what we're painting. So we'll just go in and make a little uneven stalk shape and try not to, oh, I did it. I accidentally, it's bleeding into my pumpkin. Oh no. Well, we can at least stop that. little first aid. And plus this one had the brown on it anyway, so I don't think he would even necessarily have noticed. And you can definitely see how this mixture separates, which is really cool. But I did want it to be a slightly flatter colour for this, specifically for the stalks, I think. Really afraid of charging into this orange, so I'm just going to leave it like that for now. And then I think we'll come back and put some finishing touches to this using coloured pencils, which I think will really bring it all together. Yeah, just, again, you really have to just trust the process on this one. Okay, I think this is sufficiently dry now that we might be able to use some coloured pencils on top of it. I have brought with me a selection of Derwent Lightfast coloured pencils, as well as a couple of, I think there's just one Caran d'Ache Luminance and one Polychromos pencil. So I think these will be quite nice to do a little bit of work on top of this. So let's maybe zoom in a little bit and we'll see what we can do. So I'm just try and give some shape to the outside of the pumpkin. And also this pencil is layering so nicely over this watercolor. It's just really adding a little intensity to this yellow color that I had going on here. And it's good because I can just about see my pencil lines underneath all of this. And sometimes it focuses on my pencil rather than the paper, which is very annoying. So I'm trying to avoid going with my hand in front of the camera, which adds another level of difficulty to challenge me in this project, but it's not that big of a deal. I think this might take me a little while. Coloured pencil is quite slow work, so maybe I will either put it on time lapse and come back at the end, or just cut to when I've done it a little bit more. But basically I'm just going to go around and highlight these contours, and then we can think about the little the little bumpy bits that we wanted to indicate also in the overall shape. Okay, so I think this turned out okay for now. We've definitely got some more dimension in there with the colour pencil, and you have a lot more control than you do with the watercolour. So I guess we can move on to the middle guy now. So I used, for that, by the way, I used this Golden Sun, and then I used a little bit of the Luminance Cornelian, and then I blended it out with a little bit of the Derwent Lightfast Gold. So these are sort of my yellow tones that I have in my collection. And they're really nice to use, though I think that they definitely don't stick as well when the paint is like a little bit damp still, which I think is the case sometimes here. And so for the green, I'm going to go with this pine colour from Derwent Lightfast, and just try to very judiciously try and add a little bit of depth and dimension to some of these areas very, very carefully, because I feel like this colour could overwhelm everything quite quickly. Okay, so I used the dark green to add some shading to the areas like in between the segments of the pumpkin, and then I blended it out again with the yellow, and I think that that added a little bit of much needed brightness from the yellow. One thing I'm less than happy about is these sort of harsh lines from the edges of my watercolor washes, which is just a skill issue. But I don't know, maybe when I look at it from a distance or when I zoom out, it will sort of come together a little bit better. And then that leads us onto the final pumpkin. So here is this pumpkin. So this is the one where we went more yellow and green. So what I want to try and do is continue highlighting these shadows with the green, maybe even with a lighter green after my experience with the pine. And also introducing maybe a bit of orange here and there just to tie it into the whole illustration. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. I quite like how the colored pencil shading turned out on this one. It's a little clumsy, but I kind of like the style that's coming through. I enjoy that you can still see the texture of the granulation of the watercolor. I don't really like how messy it got at the bottom here, but I think that maybe we just have to embrace that as part of the function of the texture of colored pencil on this paper. I think I am going to finish up this one by making it a little less smooth. Even though I really like how it is right now, I'm going to try and do the same thing as I did here and outline a couple of little lumps and bumps on it just to get some of the symmetry also into the whole piece, and then we can decide what we want to do about the background. Right now, I'm honestly, I would be happy to just call it a day and just consider it an experiment, but I will just do this last layer on this one on the right, and then we might just be done. Okay, so I think I'll stop before I horribly overwork these, but I quite like how they turned out, given that there was, you know, not that much planning or guidance going into this. Maybe I'll just give you a little close-up so you can see the texture of the pencil and also the granulation from that cobalt green coming through. I quite like how this turned out in the end, even with like indicating the texture on this orange pumpkin with the pencils at the end. I think it worked out quite well. I don't think I will do anything in the background for now. I think I like it just as it is. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. Please do leave a comment, like, and subscribe because it's so encouraging, and I love making these creative videos for you guys. So happy to have you here, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Obviously, I'm still learning and not technically perfect just yet, but I'm having fun along the way, and I am pretty happy with how these turned out. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye everybody.